News polls showed the coalition up 2 points in primary vote support, and the latest Freshwater Strategy poll shows the coalition ahead of Albanese's Labor government by 51 to 49% on a two-party preferred basis. Now, this is the first time Dutton is ahead of Albanese in this poll. And Freshwater Strategy Director Leo Shanahan joins me now. Leo, thank you very much for your time. Well, just how significant is this result that Dutton's now ahead of Albanese?
Yeah, thanks, Sherry, and welcome back. Glad you didn't miss much news.
Quiet over the past few weeks.
Look, it is significant. Look, it's a milestone. It's not a milestone of overwhelming significance, given it's still within that kind of margin of error. But it is still a milestone, and it's one that the government wouldn't want to be seeing, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty soon replicated in a couple of the other major polls, including News poll. Look, it does mean that on these numbers, and you should always say that swings are never always consistent across seats, but if that was to be replicated in an election, the government would fall into minority status. Now, on those numbers, we would have the government, the Labor government, falling to about 71 seats, and the coalition picking up about 8 seats. Yeah. So that would mean puts them in a very awkward position. They would have to get the support of the Greens and or many of the independents or a Katter or a Central Alliance. So
to remain in government.
To remain in government.
Now, let's talk about the key issues that is causing Labor and Albanese to lose support of the people. I mean, obviously, the cost of living is the number one issue, but also you're seeing immigration and crime.
Yeah, look, these issues, let's just look at some of these key issues, and it's really significant because if you look at what pollsters do is not just look at who's ahead and, why governments, you want to look at why governments fall behind, why oppositions are resurgent, and it's the issues on which people place emphasis. Now, if you look at some of those key issues where Labor is losing support, management of the economy, immigration and asylum, crime and social order, these have all risen in terms of importance in the agenda of people's priorities. So that is significant decline, but the key one there and the most significant is the cost and standard of living. Consistently,
no surprise to anyone watching this tonight.
Exactly. Consistently, the cost and standard of living is overwhelmingly the biggest priority, the largest priority for Australians. If you look at, our numbers have it by far and away, 73%. So it is cost and standard of living in terms of the most important issue, and daylight second. Now, as you see in those graphs, the coalition has opened up a 12-point lead over Albanese's Labor government in terms of cost and standard of living.
So just to explain that a bit, so voters or Australians at the moment think that Dutton would better be able to handle the cost of living crisis than Albanese.
By a margin of 12 points. And not only that, it was Labor that had a lead of 12 points on this same issue back in 2022. So that is a 24-point decrease in Labor's ability to handle this issue,
it's fascinating
to voters.
Because back in the 2022 election, everyone will remember that Albanese went to the polls and his main campaign platform was that life would be more affordable. It was the cost of living crisis at the time. It was everything from petrol prices to the single interest rate rise that happened in the election campaign. But, you fast forward a couple of years and life is far more unaffordable. Everything from grocery prices, petrol, power bills, everything's gone up and people are just struggling even more. And they probably look at the Prime Minister and they say, well, you promised, this was your campaign platform, you promised to fix this, but it's just worse. So in effect, he decided to own that issue. He didn't have to.
And it's the key to the trend. It's the key to the trend. The trend is brutal against the government at the moment in terms of support. In terms of both primary, TPP, the other polls are showing it. And the key is really the ability to handle this cost of living issue, because as you said, they chose to own it. The budget sought to rectify that. To be frank, it has not worked. And this is also why the ALP government probably wants to go to another budget before the election to try and rectify that, because the budget has fallen flat.
I mean, the reports just don't stop coming in the media about whether Labor would head to an early election. But as you just said, Leo, the government does probably want to go to another budget first. And the Prime Minister has said very clearly he wants to serve out the full term. He wishes it was a 4-year term, not a 3-year term. So I just can't see, and I've spoken to insiders as well, but I just can't see any situation where he does go to the polls later this year.
Yeah, look, the mechanics of it are increasingly difficult, I think, to go to an early election. I thought there would be an early election, but I think the arithmetic is increasingly difficult. October is basically impossible. If they're going to go to a September election, he has to call the election, within the next couple of weeks. Do you really see an election being called in the next couple of weeks?
But also he wants a rate cut. He wants to say that he's got on top of this cost of living crisis, and the only chance, I mean, there's not going to be a rate cut this year, unfortunately, so the only chance is potentially in the first quarter next year. Leo Shanahan, great to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sherry.